Most Albertans, but especially people from Edmonton, are familiar to some degree of the problems the Edmonton North Side experiences. Although on the flip side, many people aren't aware of just how bad the North Side can get for crime compared to other North American cities. With communities such as Macaulay, Prince Rupert, Central McDougall, and Spruce Avenue, also known as Kingsway, being among some of the worst neighborhoods in the developed world for crime, alongside the bad areas of cities such as St. Louis, Winnipeg, and Oakland. In the heart of this area sits Edmonton's Chinatown, spanning between the communities of Boyle Street, also known as the Quarters, and Macaulay. In most cities, Chinatown is usually home to at least one small indoor shopping mall, such as Dragon City Mall in Calgary. Thus, it eventually came time for Edmonton to open its first Asian mall. Located at the intersection of 94th Street and Jasper Avenue sat a large furniture store, which relocated in 1978. The location of this vacant building serviced a large enough property for a new mall. And by the time 1991 rolled around, Chinatown Mall opened on the eastern part of the Quarters. Despite Chinatown Mall's small size, it featured a 3-floor design, a rare design feature for malls of its kind. This mall featured no anchor tenants, which isn't that rare for small malls. But the unique design feature of the Chinatown Mall was the Mirama Diner and Lounge. Originally opened as the Furama Restaurant in 1992, it was the main draw to the mall. The Furama Restaurant was the place to be in Edmonton's Chinatown during the 1990s. People from all over the city would visit the mall for Furama's dim sum. Sometime in the latter half of the 1990s, presumably around 1996, the Furama Restaurant was renamed the Mirama Diner and Lounge, which was the name it held until eventually shut down. Despite the massive success the mall and restaurant enjoyed, sadly the Edmonton Chinatown area would see an increase in crime and disorder during the 1990s. Gang violence, homicides, homelessness, and drug abuse would become all too common in this area around the time. Despite this, the Chinatown Mall would still hold on to its wild success, being at the heart of the Edmonton Chinatown community. The mall was so successful that it even had gift shops, and people on Reddit described even visiting the mall for a field trip in elementary school to study the Edmonton Chinatown culture. Fortunes would change for the mall though, when Pacific Rim Mall opened in Macaulay. The more central location of this mall in Edmonton's Chinatown helped take traffic away from the Chinatown Mall, and thus its position as the main Asian mall of Edmonton. As crime increased in the area, both malls would suffer as a result, with less and less people traveling to the area. But unlike Pacific Rim Mall, the owners of Chinatown Mall did less to address the increasingly troubling situation. This would lead to tragedy on the night of July 17th, 2004, at the Mirama Restaurant. The Mirama Restaurant would unknowingly seat two rival gangs close to each other, with wedding venues for both groups occurring at the same time. This would lead to a violent altercation in which 7 people were stabbed inside of the restaurant, which later escalated to a gang shootout in the parking lot of the mall. 2 people would die during this event. 24-year-old Tap Kong James Tram being found dead at the scene with fatal stab wounds, and 20-year-old Min Ting later succumbing to his injuries in the hospital. This incident would not only affect the Chinatown Mall, but would lead to a violent gang warfare across Edmonton, with a retaliatory drive-by shooting occurring shortly after along Calgary Trail. By the time 2004 had ended, 11 of the 28 homicides that year in Edmonton were connected to this conflict. The increasingly out-of-control crime in Edmonton's Chinatown, mixed with the high-profile gang conflict at the Mirama Restaurant, helped solidify the reputation that the Chinatown Mall was a dangerous place. Most would avoid this location fearing their safety, this helping facilitate the downfall of the Chinatown Mall, a downfall it wasn't able to recover from. Within the following years, Chinatown Mall went from a small yet highly busy location to a full-on dead mall. Many of the smaller businesses within Chinatown Mall would shut down subsequently, such as the gift shop. The dire situation, the mall was sold off to 778243 Alberta Limited, a Hong Kong company known for its shady business practices. The company, which was described as a slumlord group by some people, would sit on the property, letting the mall fall into a state of disrepair. The mismanagement the company had over the mall would cause the Mirama Restaurant to be closed by the City of Edmonton in 2010 for fire code violations. This would be the final straw for the business, the Mirama Restaurant sadly closing in early 2011. The main tenant of the mall closed, the Chinatown Mall that announced they'd be closing for good later in 2011. The owners of the mall would initially take modest steps to secure the location, boarding up the property and having security. However, in 2014, the company would suddenly drop security to the mall. Vandals, squatters, and scrappers would soon overtake the mall. The mall would fall into a state of decay. The abandoned building would catch the ire of people in the area, being known as an eyesore and a hindrance to the attempted redevelopment of the quarters. The tension on the property, the mall owners would put up security fencing around the mall. However, the increased pressure from the community, the mall owners were forced to sell the aging structure due to risk of it being expedited by the city. In 2018, the mall was sold to Calgary-based Sedex Group, with plans to build condominiums on the property. Demolition on the Chinatown Mall started on December 18, 2018, and would carry on into 2019. Demolition of the structure would be finished by the time July 2019 rolled around.
Outside the building that was once a favorite dim sum location in Edmonton, a crowd gathers for the first time in years. The long-abandoned Mirama Dining Lounge and Chinatown Business Mall is coming down. The first few bites into the building by Councillor Scott McKean.
This has been a real eyesore, public safety concern. See this building going down, it's real addition by subtraction.
Long overdue, says the Community League president, in an area where new construction is slowly changing the image of the quarters.
It was a sad day when it closed, but then unfortunately it degenerated so much that it wasn't a structure that could be saved.
The plans to build condominiums on the property never fell through, and the land the mall used to sit on still sits vacant to this day. That being said, the Sedex Group would build condominiums on the other side of the street from the former Chinatown Mall, a housing project known as the Hat at Five Corners. In Macaulay, the Pacific Rim Mall still exists, now just being called the Pacific Mall, with that being at risk of closing, just like the Chinatown Mall did. Crime is overall not as large of an issue in the quarters as it once was, but other parts of the north side, such as Macaulay, downtown, and central McDougall have gotten worse. Chinatown Mall remains as a figment of the past, of an old quarters, one which struggled with crime a lot more than it does nowadays. The recent addition of the Valley Line station serves to help revitalize the area. As time moves on, we will see what happens to the former lands of the Chinatown Mall, what will happen to the community of the quarters. Yo, thank you for watching the second episode of my Abandoned Places series. Unlike the Ogden Legion episode, I don't have any experience with exploring this abandoned property myself. The Chinatown Mall being, a few years gone, being demolished a few years back. I just wanted to dive into the history of this building, as I feel like it's one that's at risk of being lost to time. I want to give a special thanks to the kind people on the r/Reddit, or r/Edmonton subreddit, I meant, for sharing their stories of the mall and sharing some specific dates they found from phone books and whatnot. If you're interested in this property, the Let's Find Out podcast based out of Edmonton has a really interesting mini-series on the history of the Mirama Lounge. I'll go share the links to those in the description. They came really helpful when doing research on this property. So yeah. I want to give a special thanks to my channel members as well. Thank you to Njacked, who has the tram tier at $5, and XDN, who has the $1 tier, for helping financially support me and my content. I recently bought a new microphone, if you weren't able to tell, so the audio quality is better than it was in my Ogden Legion video. And the support for the YouTube memberships helps me invest into the channel. I plan to visit Vancouver this summer, and the money earned from the channel will help go towards that. I plan to do some Vancouver SkyTrain station tours like I did with Edmonton and Calgary. So yeah, I recently, as of writing the script, I recently hit 1,000 subscribers, which I can't thank you guys enough. It's been my dream to kind of eventually get this large. Took longer than I initially thought. This channel's I've been doing this since 2017. Sure, I changed content a lot, which is the main reason why, but still, Expect a full-on video, a 1,000 subscriber special video with a face reveal, official face reveal coming soon, later this week. Thank you, everyone. Take care. This has been Sinek. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content, and expect more videos in this series within the coming months.